Hello, and welcome to another episode of Generally Speaking. I'm your host, Bill Lawrence. Today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. So glad to see you again. I'm glad you're here. Not that I can actually see you. I'm assuming you're there. I'm speaking if you're there. If no one's there, I'm speaking to myself. So here I go. Let's get the nice topics for today, the entertaining conversation. There's a war in the Democratic Party, a war between the progressives and the Zionists. I call them the Zionists. The real description would perhaps better be between the progressives and the centrists, the corporate Democrats. And I'm, of course, one of the progressives, and uh, the corporate ones are the types that hold back on saying anything about Medicare for all. That's going too far for them. How dare we even suggest Medicare for all? And at any rate, there's a war between them. Unfortunately, the progressives are the much smaller piece of that party. I think that would be good to harp on that word progressives. As it is, they've sort of kind of fallen with the word democratic socialist. Alexandria Cortez likes to use that term, and the new guy running for the Democratic mayor in New York, Zohan Mamdani, he calls himself a democratic socialist. It's got that word socialism, though, and those right wing uh, people just get scared out of their wits, and if they don't get scared, they just love throwing the word socialist. It usually gets combined with the word communist. The socialist communists, yeah, socialist communists, socialist communists. This was like the crazy thing from the McCarthy era in the 50s, which the Red Scare, it was called, when you couldn't have anything to do with communism. Which, just imagine that it's a position, a political position, and if you have a political position, you're not allowed to have that. So much for free speech and free thought. You know, you're not allowed to have that, and that has always been pointed out as one of the darker times in our political past, and yet that darkness is still here. It's still here, and there you go. What's my next thing? Okay, I just was surfing and I happened to come across the Armed Services Committee holding some kind of meeting, and not something I would have gone looking for, but it just popped up. And this one fellow was there, and what he said right up front just caught me. I had to comment, and these are his words: "We face an incredibly complex threat environment. It's incredible, and it's complex, and it's a threat environment." And let's say some more about it. We face Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and various other terrorist organizations. All right, we face them. What's that mean? We face them. What means they're out there? And how about that? Now, he calls them all terrorist organizations. China hasn't invaded anybody. And they might have messed around with their neighbor India in border disputes, but otherwise, they haven't bothered anybody, and they're calling them terrorists. These are lunatic people who just either they believe it really, and so they're lunatics, or they're just fear mongers. They like to deal with fear so that they can get more money for their armed services stuff. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And I thought it was funny when they threw in North Korea. Puny little nobody North Korea. They fire a missile, and out of 10 times their missiles blow up. I mean, they're on par with Elon Musk and his Starlink spaceships blowing up. But it's a terrorist threat. The place that has nothing, North Korea. So, what maybe do you think it could have anything to do with them having a nuclear bomb? And that makes them a threat. If you've got the bomb, you're a threat, and I guess that's the way that goes. So, any rate, I just think it's crazy how these people um, just push this fear thing, especially with China. I mean, Russia, maybe. Russia also isn't bothering anybody. Okay, they bothered Ukraine, but there's justifiable reasons for that. And then you got Iran, or who's Iran bothering? They're not bothering anybody, and they don't even have a nuclear bomb. In fact, Iran is the one who gets attacked. They got attacked by us and Israel, but Iran is the threat. Yeah. Okay. I don't think so. All right. What else we got? I study Spanish. I've been studying Spanish for years. I still don't know it. I guess I'm just a very poor learner. But while I'm studying it, there was, little tidbits of Spanish culture that you learn. And one of the things that I learned is that in Spain, they have something called cohabitation. That is, you're not married, but you're living together as partners, not say just living because you're sharing an apartment, but you're close. You're compadres, you're simpatico. And what's this all about? This is about you care about someone. You have a special relationship as far as you're both concerned, and something happens to one of them in the hospital, and you know how we have in this country at least, you can't tell someone anything about a person's health conditions, right? Because privacy. Well, in Spain, if you have this cohabitation status, then you're entitled to know about it, and how understanding that is. We need a little more of that here. All right, let's go else. What else in culture? We got advertisements for jeans, and this young lady, Sydney Sweeney, is in advertising these jeans, and the company is playing off on the word jeans like genetics and jeans like you're wearing jeans, and saying how she's got good genes. And I thought it was cute, but the whole world has started making this into a genes. She's a white girl. She's got good genes. What is this? Eugenics now? We're promoting the Aryan race, the white people, and I think that's a little overboard. Now, I didn't go deeper into it because I've seen a lot of people on the left, the lefties. They sometimes go a little kooky. I'm a lefty, but I don't want to go kooky, and so I don't know if there's any substance to it. Like maybe there's more. You dig down, but off the top of my head, I think that's such a crazy place to go about this thing with the gene. I thought it was a cute uh, jingle thing. She's got good genes. I like it. All right, well, that's it. Let's go back to political kind of things. Brazil. Brazil is prosecuting someone who was a president once and lost the presidency, the last one, and but he didn't go down peacefully. He went fighting. He tried to steal the election that he lost. And unlike in this country, where you try to steal an election, like someone we won't mention whose name begins with Trump, we make them a president again. We say it's fine you try to steal the election, but in Brazil, apparently they don't take kindly to it, and they're trying to prosecute this fellow. And I don't know why, but Trump seems to like the guy, and he's telling Brazil, "Listen, don't prosecute him, or I'll put tariffs on you." And Brazil's what? This is our business. This is, Brazil business inside here. We're not having anything to do with you. And you're sticking your nose in here and you're saying you're going to enact tariffs because of that. Oh, you know what? Screw you. Go give us your tariffs. Well, you're not telling us what to do. And so this is the attitude that's happening more and more with countries around the world, that the United States tries to bully, because the United States tries to bully left and right ever since World War II. They've been bullying everybody, starting internal conflicts, trying to overthrow people, assassinating presidents. This country is the terrorist nation of the earth. So, at any rate, Brazil said, no, not going to happen. And so I guess we're going to slap tariffs on them, and they don't care. So while I was reading this article about Brazil and they're standing up to us, there were some other just little tidbits being mentioned about Brazil's economy. And one of the things that just caught my eye was exports that Brazil has, and that one of the top 10 is nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors. I didn't even think that was a thing you could export. Like, what are they on the showroom floor? You walk around. Here's our model nuclear 2000. MK model MK 2000. Buy this new. What do they do? Ship in a box. Is it like one of these modular things? He's got one of those IKEA diagrams. Part A goes to B and B goes to C, and wait a minute, I'm missing the Allen wrench that was supposed to come with this thing. I don't know how that works, but that shocked me. I didn't think such a thing could be an export. All right, so what do we got? I got a lot of curious things pop up on my screen. One of them is van life that I'm watching now comes across, and these are people who live in a van. Now, some people do it for funsies, travel all around the country. It's the van life, but some people are in there because they can't afford an apartment anymore, and the van life is like a last refuge. Well, what the story is that they're under assault. Trump just passed an executive order that says you cannot live in your car, first of all. So that's not a van, it's a car. But still, you know how many people live in their car, sleep in their car, because they can't afford an apartment. But they've extended it to vans and to RVs. RVs, come on, those are little homes. They're meant for living in. Oh no, they're not. They're meant for traveling in. If you try to live in it, no, no, no good. You get arrested. You get arrested. That's what they want to do. Now, I don't understand if the federal government can start making laws that apply to the states, the cars in any state, it's not a federal thing. How do they enforce that? I don't know, but I was just seeing such a sad story. This woman who was this giving the story about how this is impacting her, how she has no place to live now. She got to be scared wherever she parks. They've got to have tactics. I've seen other videos. How to stealth park. How to keep yourself under the radar, not seen. Imagine you have to like hide now so that you can't get caught living in a van. Well, that's how that goes. What do we got against? Big story now is Texas with the gerrymandering. If you don't know what gerrymandering, let me tell you, it happened when a fellow whose name was Jerry redistricted the political lines in his state so that all the Republicans would get a vote. They would have a nice big piece of chunk of land to vote in, and the Democrats would all have little tiny pieces of land uh, where they would never get a vote. And when someone looked at the first map of this, they said, this looks like a salamander. And so Jerry had invented it. It looked like a salamander. They put the words together, gerrymandering. And at any rate, the Democrats and the Republicans both do it, but the Republicans tend to go more full steam. And even when there are court cases brought challenges to the districting that they've done, um, it'll go to the courts where the courts will say, yeah, this pretty is obviously bad what you're doing. You've got to change it, and then they won't change it, and an election will come and go, and they got the benefits of not changing it, but they get sued again. Hey, you have to change it. They say, oh, okay, we'll change it. Meanwhile, too late. They already got their representatives in, and so now it'll be another 4 years or 10 years. That's another thing. This redistricting thing usually happens with the census, which is about every 10 years. And the census shows how the population's changed. And so they try to change the districting. But now they're just sticking it in whenever they want. Trump said, do it now. I want Texas to rewrite the districting, which they've already made it. So there's hardly any availability for the Democrats to win. And now they want to squeeze it down even more. And well, the Democratic states are starting to take notice. What they're starting to finally realize, the Democrats as a whole, is that Republicans don't play fair. Republicans do everything in the world to cheat, steal, beg, borrow, and just fight the system any way possible, while Democrats try to follow the rule of law, try to be considerate. And now they're finally saying, you know what? You're going to do this. We're going to do that. And the first person to speak up was California, And of course, they have an issue with it, a difficulty in trying to do that because they've initiated this organization that does fair districting. They have an equal number of Republicans and Democrats, and it's a third party. It's not even members of their legislature, and they do as fair as you can possibly do because everybody has their political positions. There's no such thing as a person with no political positions. If you have no political positions, I don't even want you messing with political anything because you have no idea what's going on. But you try to balance it with equal numbers of them and us and actual considerations of looking how the populations are, and you get it done right. So California tried to do this, and there's a couple of other states do that. And something about those states, they're blue states. You know who doesn't do it? Red states. And in fact, just to make more of a point, there was a bill proposed not too long ago. So I'm saying a couple of years, something in the years under 10 years, right? Bill proposed to let's just end this gerrymandering nonsense. Let's just stop it. And guess who voted against it? Right, the Republicans, of course. So like I said, they'll do every trick in the book to get what they want. So now the blue states and the blue senators and the blue governors, they're all speaking up saying, all right, we'll do the same thing. I don't know how this would all play out in the end because when you start redistricting things, and so I got all my Democrats in one corner and all our Republicans in other corners, how does that end up, in the end with, how many representatives of each end up going to Congress? I don't know. Would be interesting if it just fell flat on the Democrats' face. Yeah, we'll show you, and you didn't show anything. You actually lost. But at any rate, that's the fight going on. And just a little side note, in Texas, where they were trying to rewrite the districts, they can't actually rewrite them unless they have a certain number of legislatures present to give it the okay, sign off on it. It's called a quorum. If you have a certain number of people, another one of these fancy word things. I hate when they bring in all these Latin fancy words for everything, a quorum. So they can't be, they have to have enough. No, they have to have a quorum. Well, the Democrats decided we're going to leave the state and we're going to go someplace else. They went to Chicago, and so now the Texas legislature can't vote on it, can't enact the new districts. And Governor Abbott said, "Well, I'm gonna arrest them all," but he can't arrest them because first of all, it's perfectly legal for them to what's called breaking quorum. They're allowed to, and number two, you can't arrest somebody in another state. That's they're under their own jurisdiction in another state. So he said, "Well, we're going to kick them out of Congress." Well, you can't kick them out of Congress either. There aren't any laws or rules that say you can kick them out. But and here's my just little side comment. The Republicans, as I say, will do anything. They'll flaunt the law, and Trump has definitely flaunted the courts on more than one occasion. One of his hirelings, somebody Beauvais, I forget, has told the people under him in the Justice Department, when the courts tell you something, tell them to go f themselves. That's how much he thinks of law and order. And now they just proposed to put him in a lifetime federal position. I'm telling you, the horrible people we have in the courts right now. It's one thing you got people on your side or you got people on the other side. Yes, okay, they favor you or they favor us. But when you go through this blatant, hardcore atomic bomb things that just are beyond the pale, like for instance, when the Supreme Court said that Trump, the president, has immunity. There's nothing in the Constitution about this, but these guys are going crazy with this idea called the unitary presidency, where the president can do everything within the executive aid branch and more. So much so that he, ends up taking over all the branches. So yeah, breaking the law. Maybe these Texans will do it. There's no telling. But as it is right now, there's nothing they can do about it. So that's it. Oh, what else? We got an issue that happened in Washington D.C. There was a carjacking, an attempted carjacking, and in this instance, it happened to be someone who's politically known, one of the higher ups. And two points I want to make out of this. Number one is somehow he's gotten the nickname Big Balls. Now it's disgusting. The whole Republican Party is disgusting, and starting at the top with Trump. Trump, was answering questions as he was getting ready to get on his helicopter, and he's talking about Iran and Israel. And he what does he say? He says they don't know what the f they're doing. This is the president of the United States talking like this. And the thing is, he always talks like this. Everything he says is the slimiest stuff in the world. It's really disgusting. And so we've got this fellow here. His name is Big Balls. That's another disgusting thing. And why anybody ever has to feel like they have to reference that, they can't just use his name, is it's just another sign of disgust to me. So, at any rate, that's the one thing. They got the big balls name. And the other thing is now Trump is saying he wants to take over authority over Washington, D.C., because crime is out of control. They hit one of ours now. So I'm going to take it over. And this is another move towards Trump of how I can use my power to take over cities. He's already sent the military into Las Vegas, and the Marines and the National Guard, and in ways that he's not allowed to, as far as convention goes, as far as the way the rules are supposed to go. You're supposed to confer with the governor first. He doesn't confer with anybody. He just sends them in, starts having them do whatever he wants them to do. And now he's talking about taking over Washington, D.C. Another effort at him throwing his military muscle around. In some cases, you might want to say, this is wrong. You shouldn't do that. But in Trump's case, you got to wonder, how far is this man pushing? What's he trying to do? Is he looking to eventually get to where he can send troops into New York, to California, send them to any place where he doesn't like what's going on? He's going to send in troops. This would be like a little bit of a far-fetched story in a lot of circumstances, but not in this one. Well, any rate, that's how that goes. So, what's next? I got just back to that story about Texas with their trying to gerrymander. It was State Representative Brian Harrison. He was talking on an interview, and he said, I'm here to speak for myself. Now, just imagine that. He's here to speak for himself. And what does he want to say? What the voters of Texas deserve is the voters of Texas, all of them, is Republicans. They deserve to have our Republican control. Now, the Democrats that are there, they don't agree with that. If you got a majority of Republicans, okay. But what the people of Texas deserve is whatever they vote for, is whatever they decide they want. Having gerrymandered districts, which messes with that, is not the way to go. So here, this guy, he says, "I'm here to speak for myself," and then he says he's going to speak for all of the Texas. Okay, what happened? Last thing, um, a lot of protests are going on about Israel uh, killing everybody in Gaza. This is a maniacal, hateful, uh, terrorist, the most ugly country on the earth right now. I mean, you can talk about these places in Africa where they got the gangs and paramilitaries and minor militaries attacking villages and taking hostages and killing people left and right. At the top of that kind of group is Israel. Israel is just killing everybody in Gaza. And they've got this little fun thing they do now where they have drones that have grenades attached to the bottom of them, and they're looking on their little game console, and the drone is hovering, and they say, "Look, oh, there's one right there. Already, drop it." And then they went, boom, oh, got them. Yeah. These people are sick. They're absolutely sick. And now they're starving people. They cut off electricity, they cut off gas, cut off water, cut off food. And then you get people in the media on the right wing saying there's no starvation going on there. No starvation. No, but these babies are dying left and right. Young people, especially older people, the middle most healthy people, they're all skinny, but they're making it. They're getting by on scraps somehow. And you get these right-wing talk show people saying there's nothing going wrong. They wanted to highlight this one picture of a totally skinny, emaciated baby, maybe like a 4-year-old, and someone came up with the idea. Actually, this kid had a pre-existing condition. This is phony news. You're showing a kid who was sick with something, and that's why he's like this. Well, his sick with something, whatever it was, wouldn't be the kind of thing that produced what he has. What produced what he has is the starvation and the sickness that he had in the first place. He got because his mother is starved. So It's just horrible and it's sick. Any rate, so there are a lot of protests, and the one that I'm most recently talking about was in Australia, in Sydney. There were over 100,000 people marching over the Sydney Bridge, and it was unbelievable to see. And it was, unbelievable to listen to some of the commenters. The people in control, generally speaking, are all against anybody protesting Palestine, and they wanted to try and exhibit, how this is wrong, and they just couldn't, because 100,000 people. And the thing is, it was poor weather. It would have been more if it was better weather, and so they had to give lip service to, yes, they're protesting the horrible conditions, but you could tell it was hurting them. They really would have rather saying, these are terrorists. And that's what they do in the UK. There's an organization called Palestine Action, and they've decided to declare them a terrorist organization, even though they don't do anything terrorism. And so, anyway, those are, you're up to date on the news of the day. I didn't say anything about Epstein. I didn't think there was anything dramatic. I mean, you got Ghislaine Maxwell trying to get out of her case because talking, Trump saying this is all made up, and so, oh, maybe I can get out of here. And then you got the Department of Justice, one of their people going having a one-on-one with Ghislaine. What did they say? What did they say? We don't know. We want to see the transcript, and that'll come out eventually. But so much to Trump's discomfort, apparently there's enough Republicans trying to get to the bottom of this. They want to see the documents. They want to see the documents. Trump was saying, okay, we're going to have the grand jury testimony release, and everybody's saying, listen, that's nothing. We don't want the grand jury. We want all the tapes, the transcripts, the videos. We want all that stuff. The grand jury stuff, that's going to be one for one little case, one piece of information. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. So that's still going on. And now you know everything going on in the world right now, and you can tell your friends and your neighbors what's going on. And I hope you enjoyed that. Did you like and subscribe? I forgot to say that at the beginning. Please do. And also have a wonderful day.